Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool. To find the right size for your digging project, visit powerplanter.com. Now here are your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. Thank you for being a part of the program. We appreciate you each and every week tuning in. And we know some of you have listened every episode of every show that we've done. And some of you have joined us for the first time this year. And this may be your first episode, and we appreciate that. You can find all past shows at our website. That website is the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com. Don't let the name fool you. We've got content for all types of gardeners and gardening situations there. You can get a hold of us if you got a question. You can jam your fingers in the phone right now and give us a call at 1-800-927-SHOW. That's 1-800-927-SHOW. Or if it's more convenient for you, you can certainly give us an email. If you have the internet, you can send us an email at gardentalkradio@gmail.com. That's gardentalkradio@gmail.com, and we will get your question addressed and answered and get you on the way to be a better gardener. We had a number of questions come in this week. Holly, you had one in regarding to garlic.
Yeah, our garden friend, Michelle, she wanted to know, she said that she lives in zone 5A, and she wants to plant her garlic, and she knows that she typically plants it the first weekend in October here. But she's doing some traveling and helping out some family, and she won't be back until after October 20th, and she wanted to know if she should plant it now before she leaves or after she comes back.
It would be best to plant it after you come back. Get your garlic from BigElkGarlicFarm.com and have it ready to go, but don't plant it until you get back. Here's the reasons why it is important to, in this situation, based on your growing zone, this difference based on where you're at. But you want to, if you have the choice of planting it earlier or later, later is the best option, because we do not want the garlic to get too much top growth on it. Yes, you're going to have, and we have, when we plant it the first Saturday in October here in the southeast Wisconsin area, we have 3, maybe 4 inches of top growth by the time the front ground freezes and the plant goes into dormancy. If you plant it too early, the soil's very warm, the plant's going to have 8, 9, possibly more inches of top growth, which is not good for when that plant goes into a dormancy state. So you want that roots to get established, which typically will occur before you begin to see top growth. But you can have a little top growth. It's okay. Plant it a little later. The goal realistically is to get this in the ground about 2 to 4 inches based on your density of soil. 4 inches if you're in a raised bed, 2 to 3 if you're in the regular ground. About 30 days before your first hard freeze, so the plant can get roots set, and then it will go into a dormant stage, and then you're good to go, and then you'll harvest it the following June or July based on the variety. So later rather than earlier in this situation.
Right. So, this other question came in. There are small black dots on my cabbage plants, possibly eggs of some kind. How should I get rid of that?
Yes, them are eggs of most likely the cabbage worm. Hand pick the eggs off the plant. You can blast it with water or BT, which is a natural occurring bacteria. You can use natural oils to spray on that. Also by taking just tape, very sticky tape, and wrap it backwards, inverted on your hand, and then you can tap the plant that way, and it will release the eggs into that tape, and then you can dispose of the tape into the trash. Or if you have some really sick, demented type of fun, you put it in the fire and burn it. If you want to get the eggs killed that way, which is not necessarily a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see here. I was wondering why my early girl tomatoes, which look great up until now, are starting to have splits and wrinkles in their skin along the top perimeter. Was it because of the cooler temperatures and the wet weather we experienced in the past week here in southeast Wisconsin? We had very, very cool and very wet conditions. If you're in other parts of the country that you wish you had that, that's what this question is referring to. If I cut the area off, will I still be able to use them for canning?
Sure. So what happens is that we're where we are, and
this can take place anywhere.
right, but we had a lot of rain last week, and what had happened is that you get that splitting at the top of the tomato, and it's because of something like that heavy rain or inconsistent watering, where the tomato will grow, it'll be growing, and then it gets a large rush of water. It grows a little bit faster than it should, and you get that cracking and splitting. Some heirloom varieties are going to do this no matter what.
It's just part of their makeup, yeah.
But it is common when it comes to inconsistent watering. When we have 5 days of rain, is there anything you can do about it? No. But if you don't, you can, get an irrigation system, whatever. As far as canning them, that's fine. You just remove the skins. You don't even have to cut that bad part off. You just want to make sure you just remove the skins, and then you can can them. And
you do have to remove the skins when it comes to canning.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's with pretty much isn't that basically with 95% of the items that one would can, the skin removes because of?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, this is not the same for tomatoes.
Okay. But
for tomatoes, the skin gets rubbery.
Right, that's what I'm referring to. But most of the recipes require you to remove the skin of the item in which you're canning.
Right.
Because of a variety of different reasons.
Right, yeah. Okay, so this is my first year trying to plant Brussels sprouts. This question is from Rosemary. I am wondering what is going on. I didn't stake them. I should have. I watched your video on YouTube and cut the tops off mid-August. Now the tops look like cabbage, and little ones near the bottom look like they're rotting. Any insight and advice would be appreciated. Okay,
so you don't have to stake your Brussels sprout plants. And Rosemary, we appreciate you watching our videos on the YouTube. Just search the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener, and there's like 1,700, 1,800 videos of us in the garden and in the radio studio. Brussels sprouts do not need to be staked. You do top them approximately about 45 days prior to when you would project a harvest would come, simply because that's going to prevent or reduce or slow down vertical growth and focus more energy on sprout production. And you can start seeing the sprouts develop in the nodes of the leaves junction, or the armpit of the leaf, however you want to describe that being. And the tops, whenever you do remove the tops and you top them, those sprouts that are closest to that cut are going to kind of open up or blow apart a little bit because of the just the way it is. Those are still edible,
right.
even though they're not nestled in a sprout or a tiny little cabbage.
It's still like it's still a whatever Brussels sprout. It's just not so compact.
Now, this is how we do the Brussels sprouts. Some people will start chopping the lower leaves off. We cut the tops off, and you will occasionally get some of the smaller sprouts based on your conditions to start rotting a little bit. Other times it'll appear to be rotten, but it's just a dry layer or a few layers of the sprout itself. Like a giant cabbage, you got to pull back some of the drier layers in order to get to the good part of the cabbage. Same thing with the Brussels sprouts. And that's pretty much it. Brussels sprouts, if you are going and you're cringing because we're talking about Brussels sprouts, you've clearly not had homegrown or farmer's market Brussels sprouts. The stuff in the store is,
and you probably possibly had them.
The stuff in the store is no good.
Right. It's not very good. Or you've had them overcooked where they're mushy and they're tasteless.
Or they went from green when they went in the oven to almost black when they came out.
Right. So homegrown Brussels sprouts cooked properly is a game changer versus some mushy, gross, tasteless Brussels sprouts
that your Aunt Gina made because that was her specialty, and nobody had the heart to tell her, lady, this ain't no specialty.
Right.
So I got another question came in. I'm wanting to grow herbs, the legal kind, in the kitchen window over winter. Basil, sage, rosemary. What is some advice that you can offer? I do have not the best window bay in the world. It does get drafty at times. What can you advise on how and where and when to put them by the window? Thanks.
Well, one thing that you and I grow inside is rosemary.
Right.
And that's a pretty hardy plant.
It does have its moments, because if you water it too much, you can get root rot. If you don't water it enough, they like a cold, or they like a completely dry and then a very moist cycle. They don't like to have damp roots for any period of time.
Well, that's one. Another one would be cilantro. We've grown cilantro indoors plenty of times.
Okay, so explain people who love cilantro and can't get the sucker to grow outside because by the time they plant the seeds, turn around is bolting. We plant it in party cups.
Okay, yep.
Yeah.
So like if I want cilantro and I know I'm going to want it every week.
You can do this in a wide mouth pint jar too.
Right. If I know I'm going to want it like every week or whatever, we plant it 1 week and then plant more the next week. And we kind of do this through a cycle. And that way we're always having cilantro ready. And the reason why it works indoors is because when it's outside, it's more susceptible to the heat or the day length or whatever. And that's why it tends to bolt. So when it's inside, it doesn't do that.
Because it's a controlled environment.
Controlled environment.
In regards to the draftiness of the window, it's all per case situation. If you've got a lot of draft, you may need to cover the inside with one of those plastic things, even though you may lose a little bit of your ledge just to
the window plastic.
Window plastic. For the most part, if you keep your house at a 68, 72 degree ambient temperature, even with that little draft, it's probably not going to be detrimental to the basil, the rosemary, the sage, or the cilantro because the majority of the air is coming to it.
Right. So you can grow a number of herbs that way, and you can just grow them on little pots, and you don't have to do anything fancy. It's pretty basic. It's just like growing little house plants.
However, watering.
You want to make sure you do water them properly.
Because in the winter, the air is drier, and they dry out much, much quicker than you think. Mm-hmm. And the amount of soil as well.
Right. And you're also planting, if you're planting in little, I don't know, maybe like the size of a milk carton or whatever container, you do have to water a bit more frequently.
Always, make it on a regiment because the lower amount of soil, the smaller mass soil dries out quicker. 5-gallon bucket dries out a lot slower than a coffee cup. So.
For more information, please visit theWisconsinVegetableGardener.com.